Okay, welcome back. And we're having a conversation with Kayode Eesuola, political scientist, research associate professor at the University of Lagos, Institute of African and Diaspora Studies. But he's joining us this morning from Oyo in Oyo State, Oyo Town in Oyo State. Thank you once again, Kayode, for taking the time out for us. Now, let's look at the fund itself that will make all of this work. The Nigeria Education Loan Fund, let me just read it from here, is to provide loans to qualified Nigerians for tuition, fees, charges, and upkeep. It's designed to, offer loans to eligible Nigerians covering all of these things and living expenses for their education. Now, how is this going to be funded? The Act stipulates that the process and structure through which NEL Fund will be funded, according to the 2024 Students' Loan Act, the Students' Loan Program will be financed by allocating 1% of all taxes, 1% of all taxes, levies, and duties that the Federal Inland Revenue collects and that go to the federal government, directing those funds to a general reserve fund. This is a bit more reassuring that now, by law, we won't have a problem of a paucity of funds or anything going wrong. Is that the way you see it too? Oh dear, I fear you might not have heard me. Kayode, can you hear me? Clearly not. Clearly not. Okay, something must have happened to the audio chain there. But our guest, Dr. Kayode Eesuola, is at the other end of this Zoom conversation. And as soon as we reestablish contact, we will continue. But generally speaking, in case you've just joined us, he's been most positive about the revised act, saying that he's delighted with it because it does show that government is listening, is watching, is listening, and more importantly, is acting upon feedback that it is getting. We've spoken about the removal of some barriers that were implied in the earlier reiteration of the act, but now, these have been removed. Things like family income, things like, although that has also got comments of its own this morning, but things like the removal of guarantors that might have been difficult for some people to, access. We just, for the sake of it, talked about there are people in certain areas that might not have any access to big men, so-called. But then, the viewer called in, Mr. George, and I said that, look, the traditional rulers and, chiefs and those kind of authorities, he wished that those weren't removed. And we're saying that we're not too sure if those have been removed. But certainly things like high-ranking civil servants, lawyers, post-bar, 10 years, justices of the peace. In case you don't have any big man, suddenly it's not a liability anymore with the way this act has now been revised. And I was just saying, and it seems that we have a challenge in terms of Kayode at the other end hearing us, how this fund shall be financed. And it turns out that, it's going to be 1% of all taxes due, accruable to the federal government will go into a special fund. Now, that will amount to a tidy sum. The corollary of that, of course, is that people must pay back. And we spoke earlier about the fact that now, in this revised act, within 2 years, that is 2 years after NYSC, is when people will begin to, refund on their loan. So these are all the kind of things and more that the Act has looked at, and we now have a, shall we say, a power-packed, a better power-packed, law. Okay. Kayode, can you hear us yet?
I can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. So when I was speaking earlier, I spoke to you about the how the NEL Fund, the Nigeria Education Loan Fund, is to be powered or financed by allocating 1% of all taxes, levies, and duties that the Federal Inland Revenue collects and that go to the federal government, that these funds, that 1%, will be directed into a general reserve fund. This is reassuring, isn't it?
It is. I think it is, because there's no way the funds will not come in. What is important is the fund comes into NEFUND disperses.
Exactly.
How do you ensure that it comes back to the system so that it will be self-regenerating, So it's very reassuring. However, I haven't said that. I overheard you say this is a power pack arrangement, a reward policy.
Well, my vote of confidence, but go ahead and criticize that, if you will.
I'm as confident as you are so far, and I've explained the reason, but it is not yet Uhuru. There are several issues that the board of the education loan scheme needs to take into consideration. For instance,
oh dear, it would seem that the audio has gone again. We'll soon get Dr. Eesuola back, but he was just saying there that, well, he was looking with corner eye at my statement that it's now a more power-packed law. And, because he did say, in any case, from the very beginning that, well, kudos to government, welcome improvements, but it is not yet Uhuru. Kayode Eesuola said that clearly. It's not yet Uhuru. There's much work to be done. He was just about to, speak about that, and this gremlin in the cables, or is it in the network system, sort of interrupted our audio signal again. But I don't know if it's the same. So if you know the number, you could call in, so we could continue that way till we can get Dr. Kayode Eesuola back. But we are looking at the revised Students' Loan Act, and we've said that, generally speaking, it's a step in the right direction. It is encouraging, but as Kayode was just saying before he went, and I'm sure he will elaborate on that, let us not get ahead of ourselves and be talking about anything being power-packed. Not yet Uhuru. Did I hear that someone's on the line?
Yes, Mazi Okorafo.
Okay, Mr. Okafor, good morning to you, sir.
Okorafo.
Oh, Mazi Okorafo. Mazi Okorafo in Arochukwu. Good morning.
So you see, this reverse student loan fund, at least what is happening is that in as much as the federal government is going to give that loan, but the question is that the bottleneck and the bureaucracy attached to it. Now, if a parent salary based on the latest development doesn't cover that 500,000, what do you expect? It's another bottleneck. And even the rate of unemployment. So I think there is need for the government to keep it open. Open in the sense that when you start work, anytime you start work, the government should be monitoring. The employer of the university where that person graduated should be monitoring. Because that is to say, anybody giving that loan, they must be an attack. It's sort of a mark that the certificate is using is based on loan. So that when you are starting the job, the university themselves will know it will tally well to recover the money so that it will create room for others. And it's need for government to create scholarship. States, local scholarships, very, very important, and the bursary. 90% of those big shots in those days, that early 90%, many of them went to school based on loans, that scholarship and bursary. But I don't know why bursary and loan have just crippled down. It's a very big problem, honestly, because what you see in Nigeria, when Mr. A climbs up, Madam A climbs up, he removes the ladder. How to come back is another problem. And that is why there are many students, honestly, you say, JAMB release their result. There are many students and they are now thinking of how to go back to school. The parents are now rendering that even students that are writing WAEC, they will start on Monday, and students are preparing for their NECO by June. People are preparing for the NATEC by May. Many of the parents are, because they have gone back to school now, the school are not complaining, the children there, the parents are not complaining. These are the things that the government should look into because it's very, very important. Very, very important because the 500,000 naira March, government has to revisit it. In about they have revised that student loan code. You also look at that program. Parents themselves to do. Our religious leaders, they are talking about national rulers. Should go back to their village and get national rulers approval. But let me tell you one thing. If civil war did not come, I didn't know that I'm from Abia State. I was born and bred up in where? Calabar, Cross River State. From Calabar, people were, we get a village, Arusuku. That's when I know that I'm from Arusuku. But I thought maybe my business ended in Cross River. So, from Calabar to Aba. So you see the thing now. Telling me to go to the village and look for the transfer to come and sign a form for me. It's another problem. You ask yourself, how many students this president they have gone to their village to know where they are coming from? This channel of Sajabota and Nodus, the civilization system we are going now. Many children have not gone to some 20 years, 30 years. They have not reached their village, and they are telling them to carry form and go to the village. That is transfer endorse. It's a problem. Just say religious leader where that person is, what to claim. At least they know him. His name is the register of the legislative member in that place. It will help us. But that traditional ruler issue is a cross.
Okay.
It's very, very good. But scholarship, bursary, should be reversed to let him come back. Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much, Mazi Okorwa, for different strokes for different folks. Kayode, you heard most of that. Thank God that you're back. We have just been told that you're back.
Yes, I agree with Mazi that there should be scholarship too. There should be bursary. And the three of them should operate. If you add the loan to it, they are very, very important because they serve different purposes towards overhauling the tertiary institution system. Also, the idea of remove the traditional rulers and put the religious leader is the one that I'm a bit skeptical about. You know, I have nothing against religious leaders being part of it. But when you restrict it to them, they also become oligarchy. You know, they use it as condition to force people to belong to one religion or the other. But there are several Nigerians who don't have religion. You know, they just believe they need to work and live and then pursue things. I think we should maintain that flexibility. Of course, religious leaders should be part of it, either Islam, Christianity. Those are the two religions we have in Nigeria, majorly. And then other civil servants. And as I said, I can walk up to you as a public figure and say, look, I need you to guarantee me on this loan. You assess me based on my performance. Am I actually going to school? There should be a trust within the system. And this is the time we can begin to build that trust as it were.
Let's look at. Let's quickly look at. As you said, this is a thing that has to be studied properly, and you are doing that. But let's look at two provisions in the new act. Punishment for filing false statements to NEL Fund is one that I'd like us to touch on. And then debt forgiveness in the event that this becomes necessary, maybe an act of God or, death or inability to repay the sum. Those are now provided for. Let's take them one after the other. One, you make false statements to NEL Fund. Now it has been written down koro in black and white that there will be punitive provisions for that. Your commentary.
Yeah, that's a very good one. It's a step in the right direction. We're trying to rebuild the image of a great nation at a time when Nigerian youths are seen as 419 Yahoo boys in many parts of the world. This will send signal to anybody who wants to pervert the system that the system is not going to take it. And it will also send signal to the international community that in spite of all those mostly media making that Nigerian and the youngsters in Nigeria, what they are, attempts, institutionalized attempts are being made to correct the situation. So for me, it is a step in the right direction, both for those who may be contemplating doing that, and of course for the larger world in terms of how they see Nigeria as being serious towards ensuring that the system is transparent.
Now the other thing was debt forgiveness. The Act offers a debt forgiveness clause in the event of death or acts of God, as insurance most especially puts it. A debt forgiveness clause has been put in there.
Yeah, Yori, that's also a very, very important aspect of the scheme. Things may happen, as you insinuated in your speech. It could be death, it could be incapacity, it could be permanent injury, both foreseen and unforeseen. When things like that happen, it's just natural that the government or the loan giver takes another look and say, look, let us forgive this person.
That's right. That's right.
It does happen in the system.
Okay. So that's commendable. Ola Balogun has called in. Good morning to you, sir. Did I get the name right? Good morning.
Hello, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Morning. Yeah. Just like Prof said, what I think about this student thing is that, number one, everything is all right. But what I'm not pleased with, saying somebody should go back to the chief or to Oba or to whoever. For example, I'm from Balogun family in Lagos. My children are based in Abuja. They finish in Port Harcourt. One is in Abuja now. But if you ask them to go to Oba now, Oba doesn't know them. And he's going to say, I don't know you. They have to now refer to my great-great-grandfather that's Balogun. So how would that be? They can't get this in Abuja. They're not from Abuja. So what about that? What would they do in that respect? And if you talk about church, I'm speaking to you, I don't go to church, I don't go to mosque. So which pastor am I going to meet? Which imam? So I think they should look for a way, either a civil servant or somebody else, to sign on behalf of these children.
Okay.
That's just mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balogun, for calling in. It's similar to the point that was made by Mazi Okoroafo, where you heard it, Kayode.
And we are saying, Yori, that the executive of the fund should get this point added to what they have. That, the guarantorship should not be sacrosanct. It shouldn't be mutable.
It should be flexible.
Cut and dry. It has to be flexible to the extent that I can approach a neighbor of mine or whoever is registered within this.
It's gone again. I don't know if this is if it is due to meteorological factors in Lagos, southwest of the country, where we're broadcasting from. But you can hear me clearly. It did rain a bit, just a little more than a drizzle. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but we've been hearing Kayode, our guest, for most of the time, but from time to time, it does cut out. And I don't know, I'm just being told something. Is he back? Is that what you said?
I'm back.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So, back Kayode, and you heard, I think you were commenting on Obalogun in, as we leave now, because we've used up most of our time. You were interrupted by...
Okay. What I was saying, Yori,
yes.
But if there's a way this can get to the leaders of NEFON, the point to take up is that the guarantorship should not be rigid. It shouldn't be sacrosanct. It should be made flexible.
Indeed.
We are now documenting our national life. People now have BVN, they have NIN. So a mechanic, a neighbor who sells pepper, so long as the person is captured within the system, should be able to, stand as guarantor for anybody. Who tells you lawyers and civil servants and pastors and religious leaders don't commit fraud? They do, like any other human being. So it's more get honest people to be your guarantor,
Indeed.
Not about just being senior civil servant or religious leaders. A good person is a good person. Everybody knows that, and people don't have to carry titles before they become, reputable and people of integrity.
Okay, maybe we could close now, because when you were making the point of critiquing my power-packed act now, and you had said from the very beginning that it is not yet Uhuru, laudable as this attempt is. Maybe you'd like to sort of finish that point.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, part of the finishing is the flexibility aspect that we're talking about. That the guarantorship should be made flexible,
Okay.
so that anybody who is officially captured within the system can guarantee anyone who wants to take the loan. That's number one. Number two, there should be a rework of the assumption that every program runs for 4 years. This 500,000 per annum for maximum of 4 years will exclude people in certain courses, especially medicine, especially law, especially architecture, as the case may be. So each case should be dealt with on their own merit. Because if you give me 4 million at the rate of 500,000 per annum for a course that will take me 7 years, you have started injuring me right from the beginning, and that raises the probability that I may be recalcitrant when the loan is up, when I'm ready to pay. That's also there. The people need to listen to this and allow it to happen. And then I also don't think that the same amount should be given to every student studying each course at any point in time.
Okay.
Some of these courses are more demanding than one another. For instance, somebody who is studying engineering who needs to spend about 3, 4, 5 million for a project, a master's project or a doctoral project. I mean, well, that's at postgraduate level, but even undergraduate level, they need to buy a lot of things, agents, constructions, and all these things to be able to complete their project. I think they may require more money than people who are probably, say, in political science or in English, who are mainly theoretical. So, in other words, it should be purposefully reworked, to adjust to peculiarities within the system. This is when people who take the loan have the feeling that this government is my government. It's not just making blanket law, it's taking everybody into consideration. And bad as it is, human beings still have conscience. If they are treated well and they have that impression, by the time they start working, some of them will not even only pay back the loan, they will also donate some amount of money into the loan scheme.
Well, that's a fine place to leave it, Kayode. That's a fine place to leave it. And I want to thank you very much for making time, as usual, for us whenever we call. It's been quite an interesting conversation. So that's thanking you there. Our guest has been Dr. Kayode Eesuola, a political scientist and research associate professor at the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies at the University of Lagos. Today, he joined us from Oyo State. Perhaps Kayode is on some research project there. Who knows? Just to say thank you very much, Kayode. Okay, so that's our program. We're going to have to leave it there. Do join us. Well, I was going to say tomorrow, but no, on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.